warned you. Hands
Get off me!
back.
Get off me! I didn't do anything!
Stop resisting!
You're choking me!
Back down, now!
Let go!
I'm not going anywhere. Cuff going on, right wrist.
You can't just grab me like this!
Left wrist, good, you're under arrest.
Arresting me for what? Probable cause? You don't have
You're resisting, that's enough, move.
I'm not going
Everybody
anywhere!
Everybody sees this, start walking or I'll add charge.
This officer's racist tirade in the middle of a crowded mall would cost him everything when he targeted the wrong man. What started as a routine shopping trip turned into a public spectacle that exposed the ugliest side of badge abuse. Before we continue, let me take this opportunity to thank you so much for supporting our channel. Just choosing to watch our video means a lot to us. Before we go any further, tell us, where are you watching from? Drop your city or country below, and don't forget to like and subscribe if this is your first time here. Detective Isaiah Grant was browsing through dress shirts at Riverside Mall on a Saturday afternoon. The 35-year-old officer had the day off and needed some new work clothes. He was dressed casually in jeans, a simple dress shirt, and sneakers. Nothing flashy, nothing suspicious, just a man shopping. He just picked out 2 shirts and was heading toward the checkout when he heard the voice behind him. "Excuse me, stop right there." Grant turned around to see a police officer approaching. The man was in full uniform, hand resting on his belt. Officer Brett Hoffman, 45 years old with a hard face and cold eyes. Grant didn't recognize him, but something about the way Hoffman was looking at him set off alarm bells. "Can I help you, officer?" Grant asked calmly. "We've had reports of suspicious activity in this area," Hoffman said, stepping closer. "I'm going to need to see some identification." Now shoppers started to slow down, watching. Suspicious activity? What kind of activity? "That's not your concern. ID now." Grant set his shirts down carefully on a nearby display. "Officer, I'm just shopping. I haven't done anything suspicious." "People like you," Hoffman said, his voice dropping lower, "always say that. Now are you going to cooperate, or do we have a problem?" The words hung in the air. People like you. Grant felt the familiar weight of those words. He'd heard them before. Every black man in America had heard them before. "I'm happy to cooperate," Grant said evenly, "but I'd like to know what specific suspicious activity you're referring to." Hoffman's jaw tightened. "Don't get smart with me. Just show me your ID." Grant reached slowly into his back pocket and pulled out his wallet, but instead of his driver's license, he pulled out his police badge. He held it up for Hoffman to see. "Officer Isaiah Grant, Detective, Robbery Homicide Division, badge number 2847. Hoffman barely glanced at it. "Could be fake." Grant stared at him. "Excuse me?" "I said it could be fake. Anyone can buy a badge online these days." Hoffman crossed his arms. "You got any other identification?" "You're telling me you don't believe I'm a police officer?" "I'm telling you I need to verify your identity. That's standard procedure." It wasn't standard procedure. They both knew it. When one officer shows another officer their badge, that's usually enough. But Hoffman wasn't interested in procedure. He was interested in something else entirely. Grant pulled out his driver's license and handed it over. Hoffman examined it slowly, taking his time, making a show of it, making sure everyone in the mall could see that he was in control. "Detective Grant," Hoffman said slowly, handing the license back, "you know what I think? I think people like you have no business being in the department." The words came out loud enough for the growing crowd to hear. Several shoppers gasped. Others pulled out their phones. "People like me?" Grant repeated, his voice still calm but with steel underneath. "Yeah, people like you should be cleaning buildings, washing cars, doing home service, not walking around with a badge pretending to be something you're not." The mall had gone quiet. Everyone was watching now, waiting to see what would happen next. Grant took a slow breath. He could feel the anger rising, but he kept it locked down. He'd dealt with racists before. He knew how this worked. Stay calm, stay smart. Don't give them what they want. "Officer Hoffman," Grant said clearly, "what you just said is not only offensive, it's a violation of department policy and basic human decency. I'm a detective with 12 years of service. I've earned my badge, and I have every right to be here just like anyone else." Hoffman smirked. "You got a mouth on you. That's the problem with people like you. No respect for authority."
I have plenty of respect for legitimate authority. What I don't respect is racism disguised as police work. The crowd murmured. Several people were definitely recording now. Hoffman's face flushed red. "Turn around. You're under arrest." "On what charges?" "Suspicious activity, disturbing the peace, resisting an officer." Grant didn't move. "I haven't resisted anything. I showed you my badge. I showed you my ID. I've answered your questions. You have no probable cause to arrest me." "I have all the probable cause I need." Hoffman pulled out his handcuffs. "Now turn around or I'll add resisting arrest to the charges."
Grant looked at Hoffman for a long moment. Every instinct told him to resist, to refuse, to make Hoffman work for this illegal arrest. But he also knew that resisting would only make things worse, would give Hoffman exactly the excuse he needed. Still, he wasn't going down without making sure everyone understood what was happening. "Let me be very clear," Grant said loudly, addressing both Hoffman and the crowd. "I am Detective Isaiah Grant with the City Police Department. I came here to shop for work clothes. I have done nothing illegal, nothing suspicious. This officer approached me without cause, ignored my credentials, made racist statements, and is now arresting me without probable cause." He turned to the crowd. "You're all witnesses. You heard what he said. You saw what happened. Please, if anyone is recording, keep that footage. Send it to the news. Send it to the department. This needs to be documented." Several people nodded. Phones were definitely recording. Hoffman grabbed Grant's arm. "That's enough out of you." Grant pulled his arm back. "Don't touch me. You're resisting arrest." "I'm exercising my rights. There's a difference." Grant's voice was firm, controlled. "You want to arrest me? Fine, but you're going to do it properly. You're going to explain the charges. You're going to read me my rights, and you're going to do it in front of all these witnesses." Hoffman's face was red now, veins bulging in his neck. He wasn't used to being challenged, especially not by someone he viewed as beneath him. "You think you're smart?" Hoffman hissed. "You think your badge makes you equal to me? It doesn't. You're still just—" He caught himself, almost said the word, almost let it slip in front of all these cameras, but even Hoffman knew that would be career suicide. "Just what?" Grant pressed. "Finish your sentence, Officer Hoffman. Tell everyone what you really think." Hoffman clenched his jaw. "Turn around. Final warning." A woman in the crowd spoke up. "This is wrong. He didn't do anything." An older man nodded. "I've been watching the whole time. This officer just walked up and started harassing him." A teenager with his phone out called out, "This is going viral, man. Everyone's going to see this." Hoffman ignored them all. He stepped forward and grabbed Grant's wrist, twisting it behind his back. Grant didn't resist physically, but he didn't make it easy either. He stood firm, making Hoffman work for every inch. "You're making a mistake, a big one. The only mistake here is you thinking you belong in this department," Hoffman grunted, snapping the first cuff on. Grant winced as the metal bit into his wrist. "Those are too tight. You're cutting off circulation. Should have thought about that before you started running your mouth." "Tightening handcuffs as punishment is assault. That's another violation I'm adding to the complaint." Hoffman yanked Grant's other arm back and cuffed it. Then he spun Grant around to face him. "You can file all the complaints you want. Nothing's going to happen. You know why? Because at the end of the day, your word against mine, and we both know whose word the department will believe." Grant met his eyes. "We'll see about that." A mall security guard approached cautiously. "Officer, is everything all right here? Do you need assistance?" "I've got it under control," Hoffman snapped. "This is police business." The security guard looked at Grant, then at the crowd, then back at Hoffman. "Sir, I need to inform you that this entire area is under CCTV surveillance, every angle, audio and video." Hoffman froze for just a second. Then he recovered. "Good. Then it'll show this suspect resisting arrest." "I didn't resist," Grant said to the security guard. "I complied with every order, and your cameras will prove it." The security guard nodded slowly. "I'll make sure the footage is preserved." "You don't need to preserve anything," Hoffman said. "This is a police matter." "Actually," the security guard said carefully, "mall policy requires us to preserve all footage related to incidents on the premises. It'll be available if the department requests it." Hoffman's face went even redder.
He grabbed Grant's arm and started pulling him toward the exit. "Where are you taking me?" Grant asked. "To the station, where criminals belong. I'm not a criminal, I'm a detective, and you know it." As they walked through the mall, shoppers parted to let them through. Some looked sympathetic, some looked confused, some looked disgusted at what they'd just witnessed. A young black woman with tears in her eyes said quietly, "I'm so sorry this is happening to you." Grant managed a small smile. "Don't be sorry, just make sure people know the truth." She nodded and held up her phone, already posting it. Outside, Hoffman's patrol car was parked in a loading zone. He opened the back door and shoved Grant inside, not bothering to protect his head. Grant's temple banged against the doorframe. "That's assault," Grant said. "That's you being clumsy," Hoffman shot back. He slammed the door and got in the driver's seat. As he pulled out of the parking lot, Grant looked back at the mall. At least a dozen people were standing outside, phones out, still recording. Good, Grant thought. Let them record everything. Let the world see. The drive to the station was silent. Hoffman kept glancing in the rearview mirror, his jaw working. He was thinking, calculating, probably trying to figure out how to spin this. But there was no spin that would work, not with that many witnesses, not with CCTV footage, not with a victim who knew his rights and wasn't afraid to demand them. Grant leaned back in the seat, handcuffs digging into his wrists. The metal was definitely too tight. His hands were starting to go numb, but he didn't complain. Not yet. He'd save that for the official complaint, for the lawsuit, for the moment when it would matter most. Hoffman had made his choice. He'd let his racism override his judgment, and now he was going to pay for it.
They arrived at the precinct through the back entrance. Hoffman was trying to keep this quiet, but it was too late for that. Captain Angela Martinez was waiting at the door, arms crossed. She was a 20-year veteran with a reputation for running a tight ship, and she looked furious. "Hoffman, my office, now." Hoffman got out of the car slowly. "Captain, I can explain. Get Detective Grant out of those handcuffs first, then my office. Detective Grant is under arrest for—" "I know who Detective Grant is," Martinez cut him off. "He works in robbery homicide. I've known him for 8 years. Now get him out of those cuffs before I have you written up for unlawful detention." Hoffman's face went pale. He opened the back door and roughly uncuffed Grant. Grant rubbed his wrists. Deep red marks circled them where the metal had cut in. "Thank you, Captain." "Are you all right, Isaiah?" Martinez asked, her tone softening. "I've been better, but I'm fine." Martinez nodded, then turned to Hoffman. "Office, now." Inside, Martinez led Grant to a private room. "Sit. Tell me everything." Grant recounted the entire incident, the approach at the mall, the demand for ID, showing his badge and having it dismissed, the racist comments, the illegal arrest, the too tight handcuffs, the crowd of witnesses, the CCTV cameras. Martinez listened without interrupting. When he finished, she leaned back in her chair. "This is bad." "I know." "No, Isaiah, you don't understand. It's already spreading. Someone posted a video to social media 20 minutes ago. It's got 50,000 views already. The comments are—" She shook her head. "People are furious." Grant wasn't surprised. "Good, they should be. The chief is going to want to meet with you. So is Internal Affairs, and probably the mayor's office." Martinez looked at him seriously. "This is going to get big. National news big. Are you prepared for that?" "I didn't ask for this, Captain. I just wanted to buy some shirts." "I know, but now you're going to be the face of every conversation about police racism for the next month, maybe longer. Your life is about to get very complicated." Grant was quiet for a moment. Then he said, "If my life getting complicated means that racist cops get held accountable, then I can handle complicated." Martinez smiled slightly. "That's what I thought you'd say." She stood up. "Let me go deal with Hoffman. You sit tight. I'll have someone bring you water and get those wrists looked at." She left. Grant sat alone in the room, the events of the past hour replaying in his mind. He'd been a cop for 12 years. He'd faced down armed suspects. He'd worked undercover in gang territory. He'd testified against mob bosses. but he'd never felt as vulnerable as he did standing in that mall with Hoffman's handcuffs on his wrists. Because this wasn't about police work. This was about his skin color, and no amount of training or experience could protect him from that. A paramedic came in and examined his wrists. "You've got some bruising and minor lacerations. The cuffs were definitely too tight. I'm going to document this with photos if that's all right." "Please do. I want everything documented." While the paramedic worked, Detective Lisa Chen from Internal Affairs entered. "Detective Grant, I'm sorry we're meeting under these circumstances." "So am I." Chen sat down across from him. "I need to take your official statement. Everything you remember. Every word Hoffman said. Every action he took. Take your time and be as detailed as possible." Grant went through it again. Chen took notes, asked clarifying questions, had him repeat certain sections to make sure she had it right. "You said there were multiple witnesses recording?" "At least a dozen phones out, maybe more." "And mall security mentioned CCTV?" "Yes, multiple angles, audio and video." Chen nodded. "That's good. The more documentation we have, the stronger the case." She paused. "Detective Grant, I want to be clear about something. What happened to you was wrong, completely and inexcusably wrong, and we're going to do everything in our power to make sure Hoffman faces consequences." "I appreciate that. But I also need to warn you, this is going to get messy. The union will defend Hoffman. His supporters will come out of the woodwork. There will be people who say you overreacted or that you're playing the race card. Detective Grant, I need to look you in the eye. Can you handle that?" "I've been handling that my entire life. I can handle it a while longer." 2 hours later, Grant was released. Martinez personally drove him back to the mall to get his car. "The shirts you were going to buy are at the front desk. The mall management comped them, along with a formal apology." "That's kind of them." "They're also asking if you'd be willing to let them release the CCTV footage to law enforcement. They want to help with the case." "Tell them yes, and tell them thank you." Martinez pulled into the parking lot. Grant's car was there, exactly where he'd left it, like nothing had happened, like his world hadn't just been turned upside down. "Take tomorrow off," Martinez said. "Rest, process. Call a lawyer if you haven't already. This is going to be a long road." "I will." Grant opened the door, then paused. "Captain, I thank you for believing me, for acting fast. It means more than you know." "That's what good cops do, Isaiah. We look out for each other, regardless of skin color." She smiled sadly. "I just wish more officers understood that." Grant drove home in silence. His phone had been buzzing non-stop with calls and texts, colleagues checking in, friends offering support, his mother worried sick after seeing the video online. He'd answer them all eventually, but right now, he just needed to sit with what had happened. He'd been arrested, humiliated, handcuffed in front of a crowd, all because a racist cop couldn't stand the idea of a black man wearing a badge. But he'd also been defended, supported, believed, by his captain, by witnesses, by strangers who didn't even know him but knew injustice when they saw it. That gave him hope. Not much, but enough. The video hit national news within 48 hours. Every major network ran the story. Off-duty detective racially profiled and arrested by fellow officer. The mall footage was damning. Crystal clear audio, multiple angles, everything Hoffman had said, everything he'd done, all captured in high definition. The comments section exploded. Thousands of people sharing their own stories of being profiled, of being treated as suspicious for simply existing, of being told they didn't belong. Civil rights organizations issued statements. The NAACP called for Hoffman's immediate termination. The Police Benevolent Association tried to defend him at first, calling it a misunderstanding, but backed off quickly when the full context became clear. The mayor held a press conference. "What happened to Detective Grant is unacceptable and does not represent the values of our city or our police department. We are committed to a full and transparent investigation." But the real pressure came from ordinary people. They flooded the police department's phone lines. They protested outside City Hall. They demanded accountability. And they got it. The internal affairs investigation moved faster than anyone expected. The evidence was overwhelming. The CCTV footage from multiple angles, the cell phone videos from witnesses, testimony from mall security, shoppers, and the paramedic who documented Grant's injuries. But the most damning evidence came from Hoffman himself. During his interview with IA, he tried to justify his actions, claimed he was just doing his job, following his instincts, protecting the community. Detective Grant matched a description we'd received, Hoffman said. What description? The investigator asked. A black male, medium build, casual clothing. That describes about 40% of the men in that mall on any given day. Hoffman shifted uncomfortably. He was acting suspicious. How? What specifically was suspicious about his behavior? The way he was... just the way he looked. The way he looked, the investigator repeated. You mean his skin color? No, I mean, Officer Hoffman, we have you on camera telling Detective Grant that people like him don't belong in the department, that they should be cleaning houses and washing cars. How do you explain that? Hoffman went quiet. There was no explanation that didn't involve admitting what everyone already knew, that he was a racist who'd let his prejudice override his training, his judgment, and his duty. The IA report was scathing. 23 violations of department policy, civil rights violations, unlawful detention, use of excessive force with the handcuffs, conduct unbecoming an officer. The list went on. Hoffman was suspended immediately, then terminated, then arrested. The district attorney personally handled the case. She charged Hoffman with deprivation of rights under color of law, a federal civil rights crime, false imprisonment, assault. The trial took 3 weeks. Grant testified on day 2. He wore his dress uniform, stood tall, spoke clearly, recounted every detail of that afternoon with the same precision he used on the witness stand in criminal cases. The defense attorney tried to shake him, suggested he'd been aggressive, confrontational, that he'd made Hoffman feel threatened. Is it confrontational to show my badge when asked for identification? Grant asked. You showed attitude, didn't you? I showed self-respect. There's a difference. You embarrassed Officer Hoffman in front of all those people. Officer Hoffman embarrassed himself. I just refused to participate in my own humiliation. The jury ate it up. Grant was composed, articulate, and completely credible. Everything Hoffman wasn't. The mall security footage played next. The courtroom went silent as they watched Hoffman approach Grant, heard him say, "People like you," watched him dismiss Grant's badge, saw him tighten the handcuffs deliberately while Grant winced. Several jurors looked disgusted. Hoffman's defense tried to argue that he was just following training, that split-second decisions in the field are hard, that he didn't mean the comments the way they sounded. But you can't unhear "people like you don't belong in the department." You can't unsee a black detective being handcuffed for shopping. You can't explain away racism with procedure and policy. The jury deliberated for 4 hours. Guilty on all counts. The courtroom erupted. Grant sat quietly, hands folded. He felt no joy, no satisfaction, just a heavy sense that something important had happened, that maybe, just maybe, this would matter. Sentencing came 2 weeks later. The judge was a 60-year-old black woman who'd spent 20 years as a prosecutor before taking the bench. She'd seen cases like this before. Too many cases like this. Mr. Hoffman, she began, you were entrusted with a badge, a gun, and the authority to enforce the law. That trust is sacred. You violated it in the most fundamental way possible. You used your power not to protect and serve, but to harass and humiliate. You targeted a fellow officer because of his race. You arrested him without cause. You injured him with excessive force. And when given the opportunity to explain yourself, you showed no remorse, no understanding of the harm you caused, no recognition of your own prejudice. She paused, looking directly at Hoffman. This court has seen the video evidence. We've heard the testimony. We've read the investigative reports, and the conclusion is clear. You are unfit to wear a badge. You are unfit to serve the public, and you are unfit to walk free without consequences for your actions. Hoffman stared at the floor. You are hereby sentenced to 5 years in federal prison, no parole. Additionally, you are permanently barred from working in law enforcement in any capacity. 5 years. Grant let out a breath he didn't know he'd been holding. The judge continued, "I want to be clear about something. This sentence is not just about punishment, it's about accountability. It's about sending a message that racism behind a badge will not be tolerated, that civil rights violations have real consequences, and that no one, regardless of their position or authority, is above the law." Hoffman was led away in handcuffs, the same handcuffs he used on Grant. Poetic justice, some called it. Outside the courthouse, reporters swarmed. Grant gave a brief statement. "Today, justice was served, not just for me, but for every person who's been profiled, harassed, or mistreated by those sworn to protect them. Officer Hoffman's conviction sends a clear message. Racism and abuse of power will not be tolerated. But this fight isn't over. One conviction doesn't fix a broken system. We still have work to do. We still have officers who need training, policies that need changing, and communities that need healing. Today is one step forward. Let's keep walking."
The civil lawsuit came next. Grant's attorney filed against both Hoffman personally and the city, arguing that inadequate screening and training had enabled the incident. The case was strong. Federal conviction, clear evidence of civil rights violations, documented injuries, emotional distress. The city didn't want a trial. They'd already taken enough bad press. The mayor was up for re-election. The police chief was under scrutiny. They needed this to go away. They settled for $10,000. It wasn't about the money for Grant. It never had been. It was about forcing the city to admit responsibility, to acknowledge that what happened to him was their failure too. The settlement also included mandatory reforms, implicit bias training for all officers, updated policies on stops and searches, creation of a civilian oversight board, anonymous reporting systems for officers who witnessed misconduct. Small changes, but changes nonetheless. Grant returned to work 3 weeks after the trial ended. He'd thought about quitting, about walking away from a department that had let someone like Hoffman wear a badge for 20 years. But walking away felt like letting Hoffman win, and he wasn't about to do that. His first day back, the entire robbery homicide unit stood and applauded when he walked in. Captain Martinez shook his hand. Detective Chen hugged him. Even officers from other divisions stopped by to express support. "Welcome back, Isaiah," Martinez said. "We missed you." "Good to be back, Captain." She walked him to his desk. "I know this hasn't been easy. If you need anything, different assignment, counseling, more time, just say the word. I appreciate that, but I'm right where I need to be." Martinez nodded. "There's a case waiting for you. Armed robbery series in the financial district. Chen's been holding it for when you got back. I'm on it." Work became Grant's anchor. Every case closed was proof that he belonged, that he was good at his job, that no racist cop could take that away from him. But the incident changed him in ways he hadn't expected. He started speaking at community forums, sharing his story, not as a victim, but as someone who'd fought back and won. He talked about knowing your rights, about staying calm under pressure, about documenting everything. Young officers approached him after these talks, Black officers, Latino officers, Asian officers, all with their own stories of being treated as less than by colleagues who looked like Hoffman. "How do you keep going?" a young Black officer named Jordan asked him. "How do you keep showing up when you know some of your own people see you as the enemy?" Grant thought for a moment. "You remember why you took the oath. You remember the communities you serve. You remember that for every Hoffman out there, there are 10 good cops who have your back, and you refuse to let hate define your career." He paused. "But more than that, you be the change. You treat every person with dignity. You call out racism when you see it. You mentor the next generation. You prove every single day that you're not just as good as anyone else wearing this badge. You're better." Jordan nodded slowly, absorbing the words. 4 months after the trial, Grant received a letter from the mall security guard who'd mentioned the CCTV footage that day. His name was David Park. The letter read, "Detective Grant, I've been thinking about that day for months.
about whether I did enough, whether I should have intervened more. I want you to know that watching you stand up for yourself with such dignity changed something in me. I see things differently now. I speak up more. I don't let things slide. Thank you for showing me what real courage looks like." Grant read the letter 3 times. Then he called David and thanked him, told him that speaking up about the cameras had been exactly what was needed, that small acts of courage matter. The broader impact rippled outward in ways Grant couldn't have predicted. 3 other officers in different precincts filed complaints about racist treatment they'd endured. The Civilian Oversight Board received dozens of reports in its first month. The department fired 2 more officers for civil rights violations and disciplined several others. It wasn't a revolution, but it was movement, progress, accountability. Grant knew the fight wasn't over. There would be more Hoffmans, more incidents, more battles to fight. Racism didn't disappear because one cop went to prison. But something had shifted. People were watching now, recording, speaking up, demanding better. And that mattered. On the 1-year anniversary of the incident, Grant returned to the mall, not because he had to, but because he wanted to reclaim that space, to prove to himself that he could stand in that same spot without fear or anger. He walked to the men's clothing section, found the same display where he'd set down those shirts, picked out 2 new ones. At the checkout, the young cashier recognized him. "You're Detective Grant, aren't you?" "I am." "I saw what happened to you, on the video. I'm sorry that happened." "Thank you, but don't be sorry. Be aware. Be willing to speak up when you see injustice. That's what matters." The cashier nodded. "I will. I promise." Grant left the mall with his shirts, the afternoon sun warm on his face. He thought about Hoffman sitting in a federal prison cell, about the officers who'd lost their jobs, about the policies that had changed. He thought about David Park and Jordan and all the people who'd reached out to say his story had inspired them. And he thought about the future, about the work still to be done, about the next generation of officers who deserved better than what he'd gotten. The road ahead wasn't easy. It never was. But it was a road worth walking. Because justice wasn't just about convictions and settlements. Justice was about creating a world where a black detective could shop for shirts without being handcuffed, where every person in uniform understood that the badge meant protecting everyone, not just people who looked like them. That world didn't exist yet, but maybe, with enough people fighting for it, it could. So here's the question for you. Was 5 years enough? Do you think true justice was served? Or is there more work to be done? What would you have done in Grant's position? Would you have stayed on the force or walked away? Would you have spoken out publicly, knowing it would change your life forever? Drop your thoughts in the comments below. And if this story moved you, if it reminded you why accountability matters, hit that like button and subscribe. We need these conversations. We need these stories, because change doesn't happen in silence. Thanks for watching, and remember, courage isn't about never being afraid. It's about standing up for what's right, even when your hands are literally cuffed behind your back.